Welcome to 1189, an online Bible commentary. My name is Tyler Marston, and today we're taking a look at Numbers chapter 3. We've spent the first two chapters numbering the Israelites and arranging them in their camp. But there's one major tribe that we've been skipping over, the Levites. God gives the Levites the unique calling of serving Him through taking care of His tabernacle. Now, this results in the Levites being exempt from war, but they're also going to be required to keep a higher standard of holiness, since they'll be living so close to His presence. Now, we're also going to see how God purchases the Levites with a price. He gives up His right to the service of all the firstborn in Israel. It can be a lot to follow, but it speaks to God's emphasis on equal and just recompense. And He wants His people to emulate this in their lives with each other. Now, these are the records of the generations of Aaron and Moses at the time when the Lord spoke with Moses on Mount Sinai. These were the names of the sons of Aaron: Nadab the firstborn, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. These are the names of the sons of Aaron, the anointed priests, whom he ordained to serve as priests. But Nadab and Abihu died before the Lord when they offered strange fire before the Lord in the wilderness of Sinai, and they had no children. So Eleazar and Ithamar served as priests in the lifetime of their father Aaron. These verses remind us of Moses and Aaron's genealogy that was given in Exodus 6. It reminds us that Aaron was appointed by God to serve as the first high priest of Israel, and how his sons were chosen to serve as priests alongside him. The book of Leviticus had a lot to say about their roles and their duties, and still Aaron's two oldest sons, Nadab and Abihu, entered the temple brazenly. They disobeyed God's commandments, showing their disregard for the holiness of God. Leviticus 10 says they offered strange fire on the altar of incense. It showed that they were flippant to God's instructions and implied some sort of pagan idolatry. For that reason, Aaron, Eleazar, and Ithamar are the three priests that Israel has for this whole generation, and they're going to need some help. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Bring the tribe of Levi near and set them before Aaron the priest, that they may serve him. They shall perform the duties for him and for the whole congregation before the tent of meeting, to do the service of the tabernacle. They shall also keep all the furnishings of the tent of meeting, along with the duties of the sons of Israel, to do service of the tabernacle. You shall thus give the Levites to Aaron and to his sons. They are wholly given to him from among the sons of Israel. So you shall appoint Aaron and his sons, that they may keep their priesthood, but the layman who comes near shall be put to death." Now remember from Numbers 1 that God exempted the Levites from the census of fighting men because He said that they were going to be in charge of taking care of the tabernacle. In Numbers 2, the Levites were supposed to camp immediately around the tabernacle to serve as a buffer between its holiness and the rest of Israel. And now God is giving more concrete details. He's telling Moses how the entire tribe of Levi will be given the unique responsibility to assist Aaron and the priests. Now God does clarify and say that the Levites are not priests. They don't have the same duties of making sacrifices or going into the tabernacle. And if they did that, they would die, just like Nadab and Abihu. But they do have the privilege of taking care of the tabernacle and of its furnishings. And so just like there were generals appointed over all of the other tribes in chapter 1, here we see that Aaron is the leader of the priests, and all the priests are the leaders of the Levites. Meanwhile, the Levites are expected to assist Aaron and the priests in any way that God calls them to. Again, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Now behold, I have taken the Levites from among the sons of Israel instead of every firstborn, the first issue of the womb among the sons of Israel. So the Levites shall be mine, for all the firstborn are mine. On the day that I struck down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, I sanctified to myself all the firstborn in Israel, from man to beast. They shall be mine. I am the Lord." These verses serve to remind us of Exodus 12 and 13. When God sent the final plague on Egypt, the death of the firstborn, He allowed Israel to be spared through following the Passover instructions. And one result, though, was that God still demanded the lives of the Israelite firstborn, not in a way that would kill them, but in a way that would make them His servants. We mentioned in Exodus 13 and in Leviticus 27 that the only way for an Israelite firstborn to be exempted from lifelong service to God was to offer a special offering that worked like a ransom. God had claimed ownership of every firstborn child, and of course it represented his actual real ownership and authority over every human life and all creation. But in order to bring your firstborn child into your own possession, you had to pay for them. However, for this generation of Israelites, God is going to make the ransom not a special sacrifice or a special payment. He's going to claim a living Levite who will serve God in the firstborn's place. But of course, for this redemption to be equal, now the Levites do have to be counted. Then the Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, saying, "Number the sons of Levi by their fathers' households, by their families, every male from a month old and upward you shall number." So Moses numbered them according to the word of the Lord, just as he had been commanded. Now the Levites are not just numbered from men 20 and up, like the rest of the tribes. That's because this census isn't being taken to count the forces of an army. The Levites are numbered from men 1 month old and up, representing how everyone, even children, have a responsibility to serve God. Now we know from Exodus 6 that Levi had 3 sons, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. And so in verses 17 to 37, the tribe of Levi is split up into 3 mini-tribes and numbered by the Gershonites, the Kohathites, and the Merarites. There are 7,500 men numbered among the Gershonites. They'll camp on the west side, closest to the tabernacle, and they'll be responsible for the screens and the curtains and the cords and the fabrics and the textiles of the tabernacle. Then there are 8,600 men numbered among the Kohathites. They're told to camp on the south side, closest to the tabernacle, and to care for the ark, the table, the altars, all their utensils, and all the other furnishings of the tabernacle. And then finally, there are 6,200 men numbered among the Merarites. They'll be camping on the north side, closest to the tabernacle, and they're responsible for the bars and the sockets and the pillars and the pegs and all the other equipment of the tabernacle. Now those who were to camp before the tabernacle eastward, before the tent of meeting towards the sunrise, are Moses and Aaron and his sons, performing the duties of the sanctuary for the obligation of the sons of Israel. But the layman coming near was to be put to death. All the numbered men of the Levites, whom Moses and Aaron numbered at the command of the Lord by their families, every male from a month old and upward, were 22,000. And so Moses, Aaron, and the priests will camp on the east side, closest to the tabernacle. Don't forget that they're all Levites too. Also remember that on the east side is where the door to the tabernacle is. So the priests, who have the highest holiness standards, they have the closest, most direct access to God and his glorious presence. Now the total number of Levites in this census comes to 22,000, which is smaller than any of the other tribes, showing that it is a privilege to serve God in this capacity. And the Levites have been purchased for it, with the exemption of all the other Israelite firstborn. But it kind of makes you think, how many other firstborns are there in the Israelite camp? Verses 40 to 51 answer that question. They count up all the firstborns among all the tribes of Israel and find that there's 273 more than the number of Levites there are. In order for these 273 firstborn to be exempted from dedicated service to God, they have to pay a ransom fee of 5 shekels apiece. And this total ends up going to the tabernacle treasury. It's very similar to the commands of the half-shekel tax from Exodus 30 that every Israelite had to pay. Not to mention the commands of redeeming people out of vowed service from Leviticus 27. Now this really shows the importance God puts on justice and even and fair recompense. Everyone has to do their part and pay their share in order for this covenant, God living with his people, to work. And subsequently, this emphasis on recompense should overflow into the people's lives and into our lives too. God has complete authority over every human person. He has complete authority over all creation. He could make it so that all people were completely subservient to him and his will at all times. And yet, if he still so values justice and restitution so as to evenly trade out the Levites with the firstborn, requiring a ransom payment, then we should also treat our neighbor justly, in fairness. We should be sure to repay everything that we owe them. Not to mention that this idea of fair restitution and ransom will go on to become a building block in understanding Jesus' substitutionary atonement for us through his death on the cross. As the Levites served God in the place of the firstborn, Jesus died in our place, experiencing our death, our suffering, the consequences of our sin. But also, like the Levites, we should live our lives with the sole purpose of serving God, honoring him, glorifying him, and leading others to do the same. We should serve him in concrete, tangible ways. And through Jesus, we have direct access to his divine spirit and presence, just like the priests did. So will we live like it? Thanks for watching 1189. I hope that you have a good day, and God bless.